everyone. Welcome to the Commercial Music Show, now formerly known as the City Creek Records podcast. Our guest today is ISU Voice faculty, Commercial Music Voice professor, Dr. Jenna McLean. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I think what's appropriate is a proper introduction. So will you take a few minutes to kind of tell us how you got started in music and, what led you to ISU?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Like most of us have probably been doing music my whole life. And it's hard to pinpoint a specific time of life, but from a very young age, for sure, music's been a part of my family, and specifically singing. I have lots of singers in my family, and lucky to have those folks in my life. But my grandpa on my mom's side sang in the Glenn Miller Orchestra, like when Glenn Miller was actually alive.
Oh, wow.
One of the great swing era big band leaders. My grandpa was in the Air Force and traveled with the Glenn Miller band as a singer. So that's definitely probably where a lot of my influence comes from.
So is that like the military band? Or okay, cool.
It was, at the time. But the Glenn Miller band was also just kind of a popular swinging band in the swing era, 40s, 50s, or really just 40s. So, grew up singing in musical theater, dancing even. I played the flute in high school, middle school and high school, and then decided to pursue music in college. And the rest is history. So then, after my master's and doctorate in jazz studies, I was working at the University of Memphis as a professor for 3 years. And that was my first full-time teaching job as a professor. And then I found this job posted, and I was kind of looking for something that was a little more specific to my skill set, and this totally was it. So, because I get to teach voice, I get to teach classical and commercial styles in voice, and I direct the Civic Jazz Band here at ISU, which is a new ensemble that we have. And I also co-direct our awesome commercial music big band with my colleague John Armstrong, which has been a blast. So super happy to be here.
Awesome. So I'd say most people know you as a jazz vocalist. Could you talk about kind of, your initial interest in jazz and how you got into that, and, what experience you have in kind of the jazz world?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely was kind of always interested in it growing up. We would listen to lots of Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, probably Ella Fitzgerald, as I was growing up. And certainly I was interested in musical theater growing up too, which ends up being involved with the jazz tradition in a big way. But during my undergraduate degree, which I did at the University of Wyoming, I was like many 18-year-olds who want to study music or voice. They just know that they love to sing, and they don't know much beyond that as to what options are out there and what they want to do with that. So I kind of put the cart before the horse, as they say, and picked a school without really knowing what I was going to get into at that school. They also had a great dance program at Wyoming, which I started as a dance major. So
what kind of dance?
It was heavily ballet and modern dance in college. It typically is, but I kind of dabbled in lots of stuff. Jazz, which is like a whole other thing.
Right. Yes.
Like jazz dance is like not jazz music
not
necessarily.
Jazz music,
But so I went to my undergrad at Wyoming and basically got, just led down the path of singing classical music, because that's just what there was at the school. Understandable. And honestly, I'm super grateful that I was led down that path for a time. And so I studied mainly classical music during my undergraduate degree and learned a lot about my instrument. And I'm really grateful for that kind of technical foundation that I gained. But along the way, I did dabble in some jazz courses that were available, even though there wasn't a jazz professor that taught voice there to teach me how to be a jazz singer.
But there was jazz faculty to some degree?
Yeah. So this great pianist that still teaches there is the director of jazz studies there. Actually, I think he's the director of the School of Music now, but he's amazing pianist named Ben Markley, and he directed the vocal jazz ensemble there at the time, which I know he loved doing as a pianist.
Right.
Just kidding. But he did a wonderful job and taught us a lot about style and improvisation and just the language of jazz. Then I took jazz history and jazz improvisation, and I kind of along the way was like, oh, I think this is kind of where I'm happiest in my singing voice. I have such like respect for classical music and
absolutely, yeah,
the singers who sing it, 100%. But it just didn't feel totally at home for me.
Right.
So once I kind of discovered that throughout the course of my undergraduate degree, after that I kind of decided to pursue a jazz master's degree.
Okay.
Just kind of did a 180 and took a year off after my undergrad and tried to take some jazz voice lessons with a proper jazz voice teacher.
Right.
And learned a lot from her, Julia Dollison, who taught at UNC Greeley at the time. And then I decided to go there for my master's, Northern Colorado, for a jazz studies degree. So
awesome.
And then I went on to get a doctorate in jazz studies as well, and then just kind of dove in.
And that was where?
Northern Colorado.
Northern
still,
Colorado. Okay.
Yeah, just went straight through.
And then, so along this whole period of education, did you start composing at an earlier point or later? When did that sort of start?
Yeah, I kind of started arranging my own charts and writing some songs in my graduate degrees, I would say, master's and doctorate. Was singing more just arrangements of standards that already exist more than writing. I actually would probably consider my like breadth of stuff that I've written to be fairly minimal compared to, I don't know, other people my age who are in the jazz industry. But writing more original music all the time as I kind of not get sick of singing standards, but I'm ready to kind of like uncover that songwriting voice a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And does your original music reflect like the jazz side of things, or is it kind of more modern and contemporary? What do you think?
That's a great question. It's, I would say, a mix of kind of singer-songwritery stuff, but with the influence of jazz harmony.
Gotcha.
And yeah, jazz grooves and instrumentation and time feel, all that stuff is kind of in there. So I love to sing swing and stuff, and I love to improvise, as you know, and love the like straight ahead jazz tradition. But I have found as I write more songs that they tend to lean in a more like pop singer-songwritery direction too. And at first I think I felt some like confusion about that or thought that my songs should sound like more like jazz standards that we know and love.
Gotcha.
But then I realized that none of that matters. And it's going to sound, how it sounds and how I think and how I write and put my creativity out there. So, yeah.
Awesome. And we're going to get to your original music a little later on in the interview, but I kind of want to move towards the present day. So you're here now as a voice teacher at ISU. How's your experience been kind of teaching these young college students, especially in the commercial music program, who, are just starting out and, want to, write music for themselves and be in ensembles and all that? What's your experience been so far?
It's been amazing. We have an awesome crew of students and faculty here. It's an awesome community. I have found the environment to be really flexible in a way, which is hard to do in academia. It's really hard to change things that need to be changed in academia, just because that change takes a lot of time and a lot of formalities have to be, we have to go through a lot to implement change where it's needed.
Right.
But I have found my colleagues and just the institution to be really open to doing what's best for the students, which inevitably is why we're here doing this career all together. Do what's best for you all. So I found what we do here in the commercial music program to be really innovative in that way. And we're always thinking, especially John is always thinking of ways to better serve the people that are here right now studying this music and the skill set of the folks here. Yeah. So for the vocalists here, it's been a really wild and exciting journey. Just deciding and discovering exactly what's best for them training wise, vocally. So right now the singers start out studying some classical music and some commercial music if they're commercial music majors. Yeah. And having not done that myself necessarily, not to the extent that they are, I kind of did classical mostly first and then just switched.
Yeah, and then you switch, right? Yeah.
And in a way that had big challenges for me. So I think the experience is positive for them and that they get to do both at the same time and experience the differences in style hand in hand next to each other and hopefully build their foundation as singers while they dabble in a bunch of different styles and kind of work to find their own identity as artists in the world. So, yeah.
Do you have any like just classical students that are kind of wanting to get more into the commercial side of things, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a variety of interests there for each student. I definitely think I'm of the mind that it's really important for students to get a variety of experiences here. Yeah. So while I think that more traditional or classical repertoire is important to give at least a little bit to everyone, I would say the same for commercial styles. I think it's really important for everybody to kind of feel prepared to take on anything when they're done with their degree, or even before they're done with their degree. Right. Like you, I'm sure you're happy with getting a whole variety of experiences repertoire-wise.
Absolutely.
And you're getting, you get various gigs based on that breadth of experience
too.
Right.
And, the wider your experience are, the more, kinds of gigs you can get called to, or, just it's great. It's a lot of good experience. Yeah. So you mentioned that you are the director of the ISU Civic Jazz Band, which is a new ensemble. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. John and I kind of decided that we needed a band that is more open-ended, more open instrumentation, could do jazz-influenced stuff, and also a bunch of other stuff that's commercial music related, kind of a repertoire band. Right. So that's our commercial music big band. So with that kind of taking the place of our traditional jazz big band, we kind of had to create something to fill the void of the straight ahead jazz tradition that the community also still needs and wants and desires.
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially given our presence with music education here at ISU. We have a lot of music ed majors who need to experience lots of different styles and conducting and playing in ensembles that are jazz, commercial music, classical. Right. So we created the Civic Jazz Band to exist alongside this new commercial music big band. So it's a ton of fun. It's some community members in the area who've been really itching to like have an outlet or a way to play their instrument again. Right. Some local music educators who teach at local high schools that are happy to have kind of a thing they can do for themselves and keep playing and keep their chops up. And then of course ISU students are still involved in the band too. So as our program grows, it's been great because we have all the time more and more drummers, more and more bass players, horn players that need like a band to play in. Right. So,
and does this count as a large ensemble for students?
It doesn't yet. Okay. But yeah,
working on it.
Discussions are being had about the whole ensemble thing. So
right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you also just mentioned the new commercial music big band, which is open instrumentation, and we just had our Stevie Wonder concert last semester. So what has your experience been like as co-director for that ensemble?
It's been awesome. Because of the nature of the band being open instrumentation, we don't really have pre-existing arrangements that just have, the right part for the right instruments in the band. There's no chart that has like parts for 5 guitars, 2 keyboards, and 2 drummers, and 7 singers. And so that's probably the most challenging and also the most fun part of it. Like we're all making arrangements together as a band, kind of in the moment. It's also been good for the students, I think, because instead of the tenor saxophonist just learning the tenor saxophone part in a chart, they're learning the entire bones and arrangement of a song together with the rest of the band. So everyone's learning the melody, everyone's learning the form, everyone's learning basically all of the parts of a tune. And then we can pare it down and assign parts and arrange all together because everyone's got all these ideas flowing because they have the whole context of the thing. So yeah, organizationally it's been like an adventure for sure. Kind of like
I'm sure.
Week by week together we're like, okay, what should we do with this? You know, how should we handle this and that? And we're just kind of like it's been like a really beautiful, successful first pancake for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome.
It's been fun.
And so we also have this Jazz Fest concert coming up with Randy Gloss from CalArts. So how has your involvement been in learning the music and teaching it and co-directing that so far?
Yeah, that's been awesome. It's been a total shift from the Stevie Wonder stuff in a way. I'm sure we could find things that cross over from Stevie Wonder's music to this world music stuff. But my experience with the types of music that we're working on is definitely limited in the past. So a lot of it's pretty new to me. Yeah. And I'm grateful that we're doing it. I'm getting to sing in like all these languages that I've never sung in before and teaching the students to do the same. And I think we're all like, I know John is more experienced with it. And of course, Randy Glass, our guest artist, is the most experienced with it. And that's why we're doing this music. So I think it's something new that we can bring to you guys, of course, as students, but also to the high school students that are visiting for the Jazz Fest. Instead of just having them come and play their normal jazz charts that they might play in their band, they get to do something completely new to them, probably, that they've maybe only dipped a toe in at the very least in the past. And hopefully gives the educators that teach these high school students some tools for the future to kind of diversify their palette of stuff that they give to students. So yeah, it's been really fun, and I think it's a good way to change things up from the fall semester. Our fall semester is kind of our repertoire, like more of a pop artist that we cover. We did Stevie Wonder this last time, which everyone loved, and I think was hugely important actually for everybody to learn his music more deeply. And then in the future we might do some other really well-known heavy hitting songwriter.
Oh, absolutely.
Carole King's been floated. Bjork has been floated.
Oh, wow.
Other people. So
very exciting.
The fall will kind of always be that semester where we do somebody popular and cover their stuff. And then the spring will be this more world music influenced semester.
So what's the range of, like, what types of music and artists are we going to hear in Jazz Fest coming up?
We're going to hear some Indian music. We're going to hear some Bulgarian music. We're going to hear some Brazilian music. What else am I missing? Do you remember?
Zappa. We're doing a
Zappa. Yeah, Frank Zappa, of course. We may do a Joni Mitchell tune with the Faculty combo.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet. But
so a huge range.
Of stuff. It's going to be some small group stuff, some large group stuff, all of which Randy Gloss is going to play with us.
Absolutely.
On percussion. So it's going to be a great time.
February 7th and 8th. Can't wait. So kind of moving away from that a little bit, we mentioned your music before. So how much, or what does your discography look like right now as of music that you have released?
So albums wise, like full length albums, I released my first one in 2019.
Okay.
Which is forever ago now. And then my second one is this one that's about to come out on Valentine's Day. It's called For Your Love. My first one in 2019 was called Brighter Day.
Okay.
And then I have various projects that I am singing on that are out there in the world that are just a song or two with various folks as a guest artist, essentially.
Okay.
So some little things floating around there. One thing that just came out is a big band album, Ryan Mitta Jazz Orchestra.
Okay.
He's a Nashville-based band leader, composer, and his jazz orchestra is just like stacked with super heavy players in the Nashville scene. So I sang a couple of tunes on his record that just came out, and those are findable on streaming platforms, and I'm sure he's selling CDs and vinyl too. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's the kind of breadth of my discography that's out there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you hinted at you're releasing a new record. So tell us about that.
Yeah. For Your Love is the title of the record, and there's a song on there that's called that as well. It's my original song. I recorded it in July in Denver. I'm from Denver, so I have solid roots there and musicians that I played with for a long time that are there. So that was part of my choice to record it there. And it's comprised of 3 of my original songs, which have kind of been in the works for a few years, some of them. And then 6 others that are my arrangements of jazz standards. Actually, I wouldn't even say jazz standards, kind of lesser done tunes in the jazz idiom.
Okay.
So things like The Sweetest Sounds, which is a Richard Rodgers tune.
Okay.
It's in the Brandy Cinderella.
Oh, okay.
If you've seen that one. But it's originally from this musical called No Strings.
Okay.
So that's where a lot of these jazz singer tunes come from, is old school musicals. And people don't fully realize that all the time necessarily. So
right.
There's a Stephen Sondheim tune on there. There's a Harold Arlen tune called When the Sun Comes Out that's on there.
Okay.
So just my arrangements of lesser done musical theater jazz tunes. And there's some kind of blues and folk influenced stuff on there too.
Nice.
So all the arrangements or covers that are on there are, you'll maybe hear those influencing my originals that are on there too.
Okay. So it's kind of a culmination of all the genres that you're interested in and have been interested in, just all in one, in covers. And so,
yeah. And I would say it's still like cohesive and kind of in a jazz language way.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything else.
No, you're fine. So why did you title it For Your Love?
The track, one of my originals on there is called For Your Love.
Okay.
And that's kind of the, what do we call it? Not
the title track.
The hook of the song.
Hook.
It's
okay.
like, and I can't wait any longer for your love. It's like repeated several times throughout the song. So that's the second track on the album, and I just decided to make that the title track.
Okay.
So
got you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so when did those come out? When does this album come out?
So it comes out Valentine's Day, which is apt.
Yeah.
And it was convenient. It's a Friday.
Right.
And I have 2 singles from it coming out the 2 Fridays before that. So January 31st will be The Girls of Summer, which is that Stephen Sondheim tune I mentioned. And then February 7th, For Your Love, the song, is going to be released as a single. And then the whole thing comes out February 14th.
Awesome. Great. Well, that's fantastic. So you do have a song that you wanted to feature on this, and I'm sure all the listeners are really just dying to hear you sing from that one example you just did just a minute ago. So what is this song that you're going to feature, and what's it called, and what's the kind of meaning of it?
Yeah, so from my old record, 2019, Brighter Day, there's a song on there. It's a Wayne Shorter tune, actually, called Fi Fo Fum.
Oh, love that tune.
You know that one? Mm-hmm. And I decided to write lyrics to it. That's one of the things that I really love to do, is write lyrics, and write lyrics to pre-existing tunes that don't have them yet. Hopefully without offending the original artist too much.
Right, yeah.
Rest in peace, Wayne.
Absolutely,
So I wrote lyrics to it. Fi Fo Fum are the words of like a tall, angry giant, right? That we learn like in nursery rhymes or whatever. So I kind of went in that direction with the lyrics, and it's also a departure from the Wayne Shorter version, and then it's just guitar, bass, and voice.
So it's like a personal arrangement of it all, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a pretty basic, just a run through of the tune, but there's a cool little soul-y partway through that's just voice and guitar, wordless voice and then guitar, before we go back to the head and finish it out. So yeah, I feel like it's a good combination of stuff that I do.
Yeah, right.
Kind of my signature style. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's give it a listen. This is Jenna McLean's cover of Fi Fo Fum by Wayne Shorter.
Living in a world of giants rule, when he became king of the castle, such a fool. Fi Fo Fum, but he doesn't hear our cry. Fi Fo Fum that he hums when passing by. So we keep fighting through the tangled web he weaves. Wish I could say it was all make believe. Bag of magic beans won't pave our way, patiently fighting till we see a brighter day. Fi Fo Fum, but this ain't a fairy tale. Fi Fo Fum, but we know he's doomed to fail. Power and greed together end. And now the world is finally on the mend.
Goodness gracious. Talk about a scat solo. That was so impressive. All three of you guys were just so incredible. Wow. Well, Dr. Jenna McLean, thank you so much for coming on the CCR podcast. It's been such a pleasure having you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.